Simon Gibson.
Hey, how are you?
How are you? Thanks for doing the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Looking nice and artistic there. You got your keyboard on the side. Like everyone in LA has a musician, some sort of instrument, like in the
Oh,
corner.
yeah. Yeah. That's not even, I don't know what I'm doing with it. I just
Right. That's part of it.
stole it from a guy.
Yeah.
You know, I said, I need some art.
Right. You just got busted working on your musical comedy act. Okay.
Yeah. I'm Bo Burnham now.
Nice. Well, I don't know if we talked about this before, but I first saw you at JFL. Like I was there in 2018 and I saw you on stage just like level the room. And
Oh, thanks.
you had a really great one. And I was sitting with some comedy managers and they were all talking about you. Like, that was the guy. He killed. He was awesome.
Oh, well, none of them came up and talked to me after. So, I mean, you know, it was a great, thank you so much. I do remember that. I think I remember meeting you officially at that show Golden Hour.
Oh, yeah. That was a great show.
That MK Paulson ran for a long time. And, you know, I think if live comedy comes back, I think that show will come back too. But yeah, I remember meeting you there and you were like, dude, I was at Just for Laughs. And yeah, I mean, that, you know, that festival was, you know, I think everyone, you know, who goes will say this, you know, it's like, you know, it does a lot and it doesn't do much, you know?
Right.
And I think I had, I don't know if I had high expectations going in, you know, I didn't really have any expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think after that set, which, you know, I mean, I'm pretty honest with myself, but, you know, after that set, I was like, man, that was as much of what I wanted to do. And of course I was still like, yeah, but I fucked up. You know, I ran out of time, but I didn't even do like the thing I was supposed to close on, you know, because I, you know, admittedly will run the light from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they were so just like, don't even think about running the light. And then I watched people like run the light by like 4 minutes and nobody gave a shit.
4 minutes?
I mean, quite a few. I'm not going to say who, but like I watched them, but because they were doing so well, nobody cared and nobody said anything after. But definitely after my set, you know, I really thought like, oh, this is going to be it. And, you know, a lot of people are like coming up to you and it's, you know, this very sort of surreal thing. And, you know, you're on top of the world and everyone's like, all right, we'll see you when you get back to LA. And then, you know, you get back and then 2 weeks later that, you know, whatever heat, you know, you had, I mean, it goes away. And if you didn't really like have the right people to kind of jump on it, you know, it's kind of just like I think it takes a full year, you know, for that to kind of start to catch up to what, and I don't think most people are prepared for that. And it, you know, and it can kind of get you down. Yeah.
Cause I mean, you probably expect like you land back Air Canada in LA and you're like, all right, we did it. And you're just going to walk onto set and start shooting, but they have to build projects for you. They got to figure out like what you're good for. It's like a whole another year of meetings basically.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, if that is, I don't know if it works that way at all. I mean, I think I've heard of, at least now, you know, I remember, you know, that festival back, you know, it was one of those things back in the 90s, you know, it's like, oh, you crush there and you like have a sitcom or whatever, you know, and it definitely doesn't work like that now. And I've heard of like a few people going up there, but they already had like a lot of heat going in, you know? And me, I was kind of like, came out of nowhere and, you know, that was the biggest thing is what people said to me up there. They were just like, who are you? You know? And and while that was great, you know, it doesn't necessarily, they're like, who are you? Now we have to like find out rather than like, we already know who this guy is going in or, you know.
Yeah. It's a weird mix of like, who is that guy? Plus like, oh, obviously they got it.
Yeah. But you know, I mean it was just such I hope that in, a year or two, that festival can come back to what it was before, because truly just a one of a kind experience and just deal up there. It's
a beautiful, it was my first time in Montreal, even as a Canadian. And it was a great experience just being there and taking it all in.
Wait, because you're from Toronto?
Vancouver.
Vancouver. Okay. Yeah. Other coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comedy's coming back there a little bit. Like I have some friends, like I saw Ivan Decker post that he was on a show and stuff, and the Yuck Yucks clubs are open up again there. So I think in BC, where I'm from, the whole province, which is like a state, has 178 cases. So they're on the ball there, but it's also the whole country's 40 million people. So it's just a different thing,
I mean, yeah, it's more, but even still, like in the big cities, you don't, that's less than like Ventura County.
Yeah.
So it's like we don't really know what we're doing.
Yeah, they're pretty strict. Like if I go there, I have to like quarantine, isolated for 14 days, without symptoms, just still no matter what. So that's been helping.
I think he was on your podcast last week, Matt O'Brien.
Yeah, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, so him and Julia, they drove up there, and he was like, you have to quarantine for 14 days or you get fined like 10 grand or something. Like,
yeah,
they're very strict, and I mean that's what you have to do because people keep wanting to pull these goddamn masks down below their nose.
Yeah,
and they don't get it.
Yeah, I saw like in LA, there was these parties like on Mulholland Drive of like 200 people and like, I mean, that can't be good for spreading it. And those, well, and I saw that not to like make this podcast about this temporarily, but the mayor, he was like, if you do that shit, we'll just shut off your water. Yeah. Water and power.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll turn into a bad cruise line. Everyone will get E. coli.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, but that's the thing is like those people, those rich people, they're gonna like give it to their house cleaners. They're gonna give it to someone who's like who doesn't have the means to get the best care, and that's why it's like such a messed up thing to do, in my opinion. But
the whole thing is crazy. Getting back to your JFL thing for 1 minute. I remember seeing like what there were like these big posters that said Amazon presents during the New Faces. And so they worked the story for that Inside Jokes show on Amazon into like the finale of you kind of like getting to JFL.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was like another reason why the whole Just for Laughs experience was incredibly unique for myself. And then the other people that they were following that went there as well. Yeah, because, what was insane about that is when we got to Montreal and that camera crew at that point had been following me around for 4 months. So that was like the end of it, and of just this like, looking back on it now, I'm like, oh, I missed that. But, during it.
Right.
Because as a new face, you don't find out that you got it until 3 weeks before the festival. And, the producers of that show, to their credit, did a great job of really, not giving anything away. So, for the majority of that show, me and everyone else, we were just constantly on edge because I kept thinking, the whole time, and I kind of wish I could have like, if one wish is I wish I could go back and just kind of like enjoy it rather than.
Yeah, you seemed a little stressed.
Yeah, because the whole time I'm thinking that I'm getting set up.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, when are they going to tell me I didn't get it and I have 8 fucking cameras in my face? So that was like what was going on for the whole time for me. And then when I did get it, it was incredibly, just a great moment. But the next day, my roommate who was also auditioning, he finds out he didn't,
Right.
And they were and the film crew was also following him around for 4 months too. So it was like, I was obviously like so thrilled to get it, but then, you know, I enjoyed it for all of like 12 hours before the next day. I'm just like, you know, kind of like trying to comfort my friend. And
yeah, it's rough because like, all that footage that they're shooting, it really sets your ego up that like you got like, why would they be doing this if it wasn't somehow like destined to be?
Yeah.
So that's,
yeah.
And you got to in some ways live both. You got to see how the reality of getting it and the reality of not.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, for someone who, you know, kind of, you know, has watched a lot of TV in their life, I'm like,
you can just say American.
Yeah. As an American who watches 8 to 12 hours of TV a day, honestly, people would be now like, people are like, well, that's kind of low. What's
right. Yeah. What's wrong with them?
Does this guy know how to read or something? But I think, you know, I kind of knew, I knew what was coming. And, you know, my suspicion was that, you know, they did want a scenario where, you know, it's like roommates against each other or something, you know. I mean, that didn't happen because I don't think comedians are that mercenary. Like, I don't, as people think, you know, as they're portrayed. I think there is a lot of like, you know, sort of everyone's on, not everyone, but you know, most people are like, we're on the same team, you know, we're like rooting for each other and stuff.
It's very competitive, but I never find it individually competitive. Like I'm against that person. It's like competitive as a whole. I want to get ahead, but it's never like it's never at the expense of someone else because there's so many opportunities, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there are certain, just in like every industry, there are those people that are like very, you know, the ends justify the means, you know, kind of ruthless, but I don't think there's not that many, you know,
because it all depends on you. Like it's your work, it's your jokes. It's like, it's a lot of the hard work you're putting into yourself. So how can someone else take that away from you?
Yeah.
You know? Like it would rarely be like another comedian, like maybe the industry, or maybe you get selected at the expense of someone else, but it's not because of the other person.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you lost the spot to another guy, I mean, I don't know anyone who does what you do, so that's probably a good thing. But if you lost someone to similar to you, you'd be like, all right, it's not that person's fault. They were just looking for someone who fills that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, you know, unless... Until Sam Kinison comes back from the grave.
Next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, if they all came back next year, Tupac, Sam, everyone, we'd just be like, cool. Like nothing would surprise me this year.
Literally nothing will surprise me. And, you know, I would love to hear some of those bits live, you know, so while the world is falling into hell.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, with that, I mean, they definitely did a great job.
Yeah.
Keeping the suspense kind of building and, you know, showing how hard it is. And ultimately like that, I mean, that show did a lot for me, you know?
It's a big credit. I mean, in an industry where you're looking for credits, it's like your hand's been stamped in a major way.
Yeah. Yeah. It is funny though about how, you know, Amazon, like this and that, like they weren't allowed in any of like the like Netflix's after parties, like Funny or Dies, like they weren't allowed in there because they're like, fuck you, Amazon. Like, we're not going to let you shoot at our party where we're trying to like groom people, you know?
Oh, you mean the camera crews weren't allowed in?
Yeah.
That's interesting. But how would they know? Did it say like Amazon Presents on the camera or?
I don't think, no, it didn't, but I think they just knew.
They knew what was happening.
You know, you're walking a fine line with like, these rival studios that are like, you know, don't step on our toes, Bezos. And then, you know, walk, and the other, you know, sort of thing you got to tiptoe around is not alienating yourself from these other new face comics who are not being followed around.
Right. Yeah.
You know, because it can be, I mean, it can be come across as like, you know, who the fuck's this guy thinks he's something, you know, why am I not? And that's kind of where the competitiveness comes from, the ego standpoint, where you're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
I say funny shit.
Right. Yeah. There is a little bit of like, why don't I have that too? Yeah.
But you know, ultimately I think having them follow me around and having them start shooting at like 11 a.m. really kept me in a way. It was like the best thing, because it kept me like from staying out till 6 a.m. every night, which I totally would have done had I not known that, like, okay, these people are going to be banging on my door at 11 sharp. It's not like
makeup, everything.
Yeah, it's not like LA comedy time where like, the show starts at 8, but it's really 8:30. When they say they're going to be there, like they're going to be 5 minutes early, you know?
And did you like having that experience? Because now you're hosting a show, Cannonball.
We filmed the whole season in like a month. Did 10 episodes in a month, and it wrapped kind of like around Thanksgiving of last year. So
with Roxy from 106 in Park. I used to watch that all the time.
Yeah, Roxy Diaz. Yeah. She was awesome. And then Mike the Miz Mizanin.
Yeah.
Very famous WWE wrestler, also from the real world.
Right. Did having that Amazon camera experience like help you with like the becoming a host, or did you feel it was already something because of stand up? You're like, I got this. Let's just go.
Oh no, 100%. That Amazon thing, I mean, helped just getting comfortable with, you know, with all those cameras, with like a whole crew, and then really like fatefully, I just got this like random gig like a week before I went in for the audition for Cannonball, but I just randomly got this gig as like a man on the street type guy for this festival in San Diego called Kaboo.
Okay.
And so like they wanted to like have content for their live stream and just do kind of funny stuff. So basically before I, you know, went into audition, I had already done this whole thing like 4 days in a row of just like interviewing just the drunkest, just whitest Orange County, just knuckleheads. So I was like sharp, you know?
Yeah.
And so that really helped. And, you know, also with a camera crew's like filming all that stuff too, because they're trying to like get, you know, fun little cuts for their live stream and their like promo for the next years or whatever. And so that helped. So by the time I went in there, and basically like I've done a good amount of auditions now. Got to callbacks, you know, like then like wait
like for sitcoms and TV and stuff.
Yeah, for like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And this literally, I went in for an audition and it was a chemistry test with the Miz.
Mm-hmm.
And so Cannonball it was originally a show in Australia and then the UK of the same name. And it ran a couple seasons. So the chemistry test was just me and the Miz watching an episode of the UK series and just making like funny commentary. Because originally I was supposed to be the play-by-play. I was supposed to be Roxy Diaz's position as the other play-by-play person with the Miz.
Yeah.
And I mean this audition, like literally the first, because I was like, I'm going to lean into what my style is on stage, which was like Hawaiian shirt, you know, loose.
Yeah.
And like I walk in there, literally the first thing he says is, "Oh, thanks for dressing up." Huge laugh. And then you know, I watched a bunch of stuff with him in it cuz you know, admittedly I don't watch wrestling, so I didn't know who he was. And you know, now I do for sure. Also wrestling, everyone should watch it. It's so fun. it's just like pure entertainment.
It's a soap opera.
It's a soap opera. It's great. I mean, it's a soap opera with like acrobatics, and so, I watched this interview, and this was the moment where I was like, oh, I think I can actually have a shot at this. And so I watched a bunch of stuff with him, and I watched this interview of him on Jimmy Kimmel, and he was a little irritated, but he was also like joking around because the guest before him was Josh Gad.
Okay.
And Josh Gad made some sort of like snarky remark of like, oh, I don't know who's your next guest? I have no idea who that is. And so the Miz was kind of like, he was like a little perturbed, but also, like being funny about it.
Right.
And so the first thing that I said to him before we like started watching this thing is I was like, hey man, I watched a bunch of your stuff online, and I was like, you're so funny, and he's like, oh, thanks, man. And I was like, and I just want to say one thing. Fuck Josh Gad. And he just like, because the producers are like, what? But he starts laughing so hard, and he's like, yeah, I know. That guy's an asshole. Which is true.
Yeah. Well, you're owning the room right away.
Yeah. And
getting also and getting a cosign from the other guys on the series. Like,
exactly.
Talk about chemistry test.
And really like that was the only audition. I booked it off of that, and never has that been the case. And plus I was also feeling pretty loose because when I was waiting to go in there, I saw the guy who was auditioning before me, and I saw him walk out, and I'm not gonna say who it is because I know that stuff's all confidential. But literally one of the most world famous comedians, like a touring comic on a world scale, has performed for like, princes in Dubai and just like, all kinds of crazy shit. And I saw him walk out with the Miz, and they're like, buddy. And I said to the producer, I was like, is that? And they were like, yeah. And so immediately I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I got no shot at this,
Right.
And so I was like already kind of feeling loose, and normally I might have not said like something like that to, take that kind of gamble, but because of that, I'm like, I'm just going to swing hard and just hope.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably not the advice you would have gotten from someone be like, how do I get this gig? But what you were is you were authentic, you were in the moment, and you played to the room, which is all stuff from stand-up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And like how miserable, I don't know if you're enjoying the gig, but it seems like you are. And how miserable would you be if you had to like if you sold yourself as someone else?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's kind of, and I think back to Inside Jokes, one of the producers of Cannonball was like a huge fan of Inside Jokes. And and I think, and ultimately like, Cannonball was the time of my life. I mean, talk about a dream gig, like hopefully knock on wood, there's the season 2 and they bring me back. That would be amazing.
Can you give a brief description of what it is for those who haven't watched it?
Yeah. So essentially, I mean, dream job. So the show is a competition show where there's it starts off with 12 competitors.
Yeah.
And they do these different stunts that are all water based. And the focal point of the set that they're going through is this, I'm pretty sure it's like a 7-story. Yeah, it's the height of a 7-story building, but it's a water slide that literally like shoots people off, and they have a bunch of different like a bunch of different stunts that are built around that. There was one that was just this inflatable, this like giant suspended foam dartboard that people just launch and try and, get as close to the target as they can. And, they just rocket into this thing and, bang off it, fall into the water. Just all kinds of just wild, insane stunts, stuff that I would never do for anything. You couldn't get me up there. I refuse.
Did they try to get you to do it? Like, come on, just do one.
Well, thank God, for insurance purposes, I could not legally. But I didn't even want to stand at the top of that thing, which they did ultimately get me to do, and they filmed it, and it was very funny because I was real scared, Mm-hmm. It's always funny when someone's scared,
Yeah. Classic.
Yeah. And so my role, and this was like why I keep just saying just a dream gig, was I was the sideline reporter. I am the sideline reporter. And so my job is basically to interview the competitors after they do their run and kind of be like, hey, what was going on in your mind when you were up there? And, ultimately, like 80% of them would be like, honestly, Simon, I don't know. I just blacked out up there. And I was like, oh, well, as someone with a big drinking problem, I black out every day, just like,
right.
I'm like, can I say that? Whatever. And they left most of what I said in, which to the credit of that show, they really wanted to make it funny, because I think they could have just found, some hottie in, of any gender.
There's so many hosts in LA who just host.
Yeah.
And my wife was a host.
I mean, great.
Yeah.
I mean,
but there's tons of them.
It's such a sweet gig.
Yeah.
But also if you throw in someone who's like, me, I've been doing comedy for, almost 9 or 10 years now. I don't even know. But yeah, so someone who, and a huge thing of what I do is I riff, and that's like pretty, because I got like I had a producer in my ear who would like give me talking points, but there was no like script. It was really just,
you're like James Bond. You rip out the thing. You're just going rogue.
Yeah. I don't need this. Throw it away. They're like,
drop it in a champagne glass.
$800. Yeah. Yeah. Those are expensive. Okay. So, I mean, really it was just like read and react, you know? And I think another thing that the showrunners and producers wanted to do was to find, these, contestants, competitors, find these people who are also like good on camera, right. Who are kind of freaks a little bit, who are, will say some funny stuff. And they did do that, thank God, because like there's nothing worse than trying to pull something out of.
Oh yeah. You can teach hosting, you can't teach funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
did they ever pull you aside and said, okay, that was a little too far?
Well, I mean, here's the thing is no.
That's
because, good. Yeah, it was great. But here was the thing is that no matter what I did, no matter what I said, we would always have to do it at least one more time.
Yeah.
So once I started to know that, then I'm like, okay, on this first take, I'm just going to like all the funny stuff that I can think of, just blah, 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 get it out.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, okay, try that again, but literally just be like, how'd you do? So,
right.
So really, like, they were never like, I one of the things that they told me early on was like, be funny, but don't be mean. Don't shit on these people.
Right.
Nobody wants to. I mean, there's already a show called Wipeout where it's people literally hurting themselves.
Yeah.
And, they're just like, oh, hey, nice fall, fatty, or some shit.
Yeah, you do all this amazing riffs, and then they're like, we loved it. We loved everything about that. Now, can you just do one for us where you say, what was that like?
Yeah. Put me in your swimsuit up there, I'm like, what? I'm not going to fit in this guy's swimsuit. So, I mean, it was, again, like just such a dream. There's an audience behind me that were all like paid extras, and they just had to laugh and encourage everything I did, which, you know, literally made me go insane, you know?
Yeah.
Just like, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm getting my fill of stand up and riffs and just like a great crowd energy by like 11 a.m.
Yeah. And getting paid and, you know, and recognition and yeah.
And then, you know, it's hilarious. Like because we filmed exclusively on the weekdays. Mm-hmm. And only 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, because the Miz would have to fly out on Thursday night because he would do Friday night wrestling. So we never filmed on the weekends. It was great.
Yeah.
But then like most of those days that I would be on set, I would have shows later. And it was just so funny going from like, you know, a crowd of people who are just like, yay, everything you do is amazing. And then like, you know, you're at the kibitz room and, you know, some guy's eating a sandwich and doesn't, and you can't even hear him boo because he's so far.
Wow, you picked the example.
And let me tell you something. I would pay an infinite amount of money to do the kibitz room right now.
Oh, we all would.
To do, you know, Sal's Comedy Hole. I would give anything to perform at the Hollywood Hotel. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Downstairs, a bunch of mirrors.
Yeah, I love that place because you can literally just watch yourself bomb.
Yeah.
In a haunted basement of a haunted hotel.
Yeah, who knows when it's coming back? Because I mean, LA was the land of so many shows every night, all the time. And now it's just the land of quarantine like everywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I did see that New York is, I mean, they're doing a lot of outdoor shows again. And
yeah,
I think, you know, it's just weird that, you know, California had it so under control and then just completely lost it. But I do think, you know, if for the next year, I think outdoor shows.
Yeah. I'm surprised we're not on that. So like but maybe it's too hot or I don't know what the rules are. It seems kind of like, are you allowed to have outdoor shows? I don't know.
See, I don't know.
San Diego's having them at the Comedy Store. So that seems like, I think as long as you social distance and have the masks.
Yeah.
I saw Dave Chappelle do it and you're like, oh, wow, this is like, looks legit. Everyone has the mask. They're far away from the stage, but it still felt like a show and looked great. Yeah,
man. Well, I do miss.
But like, you're a guy who moved to LA from Portland for comedy.
Yeah.
And would you do that now in today's environment, or just like, is LA losing its appeal to like move to for dreams?
I mean, right now, yeah, there's no reason to come here.
Yeah.
I mean, if I
love the traffic right now.
It's great. I mean, it's great. I think, you know, if certain things were different for me, like I probably would have just like gone back to Portland for this whole time, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm happy that I don't have to do that I can stay here, you know, but yeah, I mean, I think especially, you know, it was like, well, I want to be around for auditions, but everything's a self-tape, you know, you can, you know, everyone's starting like a Twitch, you know, stream or whatever. It's like, you do that from anywhere, you know, It's kind of like,
I just started one and got it all set up. It's kind of fun. I enjoyed just the setting it up part. Like, all right, this how it's kind of complicated, but it
oh, I know.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, yeah, maybe I'll just start a Twitch channel. And I started like researching it. I'm like, I don't know what what?
Yeah. I'll walk you through it if you want. I spent like a day like researching and then it wouldn't load and this wouldn't happen. And then like, you got to turn off HDCP on this. And
it was a lot of stuff. I might. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like just going live on YouTube or something.
No, I thought it was going to be simple. And I was like, and then I was talking to a buddy of mine who does a lot of DJ streaming. I'm like, how does someone not figure out like one box, you buy this thing or software and it's all together? Like, or maybe it's out there and I just don't know. Call in.
I mean, maybe that's part of like what keeps everyone from doing it. And maybe Twitch is like, we have to make it a little, you have to want it a little bit, you know?
It's cool though that they gamify it though. They're like, here you get a little, they made like a video game inside of a video game. It's like, you get 10 followers, you get a reward, you get this many hours, you get a reward. So they're very smart.
You like level up.
Yeah, you level up so that they know who they're playing to. They're playing to gamers who will spend their whole life to get a little virtual star.
Oh man, I remember this was, I mean, maybe like easily 4 years ago now, maybe, but the first show that I actually like really got paid for was a Twitch show, and somebody told me about it. It's like this guy does it out of his garage. It's like on the Oregon coast, like an hour and a half away from Portland. And, you know, so I get there, never met this dude. I don't know what to expect. It's also St. Patrick's Day. I remember that. And I go there, it's at his house, and you know, it's just me and him. We open it up with like, you know, doing some banter. And then I just go into the other corner. I go into the other corner of the room where he has a green screen set up and a camera. And then I just did like 45 minutes of stand up for just him in the room.
Yeah. And
this guy was laughing so hard. It was almost like distracting to me. Yeah. I'm just like, okay, you know, but you know, he paid me a couple $100 just for going down there. And then during my set, people are like giving donations.
Yeah.
And so like I walked out of there with like $600 and I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? It was insane. And this guy, like that's all he did, that he just, you know, but it was still the show. So after my set, I sit back down and then we like play video games for another like 45 minutes and do like commentary, and he's like engaging with people. And that's when I saw, you know, I was like, wow, this guy easily, you know, has 10 grand or something invested in this equipment.
Yeah.
To really make it work.
To really get up there. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think there was, you know, like 200-300 people watching his stream. And that's where I was like, this is the fucking future.
Yeah.
And that was before, you know, this pandemic happened. And now it's even more true, I think.
Yeah, Josh Potter was on the pod and he put me onto it. He's like, yeah, I've just been streaming him playing video games. He plays like sports games, and people know him from being on Your Mom's House and comedy, and they'll go in and talk to him. And I was like, I got to see what this is about. So I logged on and I started sending him tips, and I'm like, this is fun. I get it. And then you send him a message and he'll answer in real time on camera.
Yeah. And that's the big part of it, is you're like, I mean, you're kind of riffing with the people who are, you know, message, like texting or.
What do you think of this? Like, we do a live show on Twitch, a comedy show, but with like the minimum allowed people that you can get together, which is like 9 or 10, right? Mm-hmm. And select them to be good laughers, and then you stream that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good idea.
Because the problem right now is the laughter as the comedian and the delay. Yeah. So you make a great show. We've all done shows for 10 people, less sometimes. And and if you pre-screen them for like, you're a good laugher, we could have auditions.
Yeah.
I think this is it.
I think we figured it out. I mean, 10 people is already like probably one of the best shows in LA, you know, so.
Yeah, let's, all right, I'm going to put my thinking cap on this one. And
that's what we come up with ideas, you know, we just come up with stuff.
Yeah, it seems so simple, but then, because if you went for one guy and it worked.
Yeah, but then I remember I did that show again, like maybe a year later, and it was not as fun.
Right. Because I was like, I heard this one last time.
Yeah. Also, I was like, it was weird. And then I never heard from him again. But the one time, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you're leaving on a high because you're like, that was weird. I didn't know what to expect. But then when you know you're going into a weird situation, it's like the charm, the romance is gone. It doesn't matter about the money at that point. You're in some guy's basement and he's weird.
Yeah.
Or a nice guy. I'm sure he's great. So we usually talk about goals on the pod, but this is such a weird year for that. Do you have certain things you want to achieve in comedy? Or are you just taking it as it goes, day by day? What's your feeling on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the word pivot is something
I love pivot. So overused. Pivot, synergy.
Yeah. And so
content.
That's like, dude, and just, growing your base. This is a great time to grow your base going into Q3 or whatever the fuck Q we're in right now. I never know the Q, but
you could transition to, with that phrase, hired executive.
Yeah. This guy's now, he's up there on the totem pole. Just with his vocab. I think goals. I do have them, and I a lot, like at first, what was being like kind of pushed to me from people was very depressing to me. As someone who was like, really going hard on the live performance aspect of it, and like really almost starting to feel like, because I was like headlining more and never had done that before, and was starting to really figure out how to do an hour consistently. And then that was, just kind of ripped away.
Right.
And then it's like, wow, I put all that time into that. So there was kind of, for me, there was like a grieving process, I think, of just kind of like, all right, well, got to let that go right now. So then it's like, okay, well, what else do I want to do? And it's like, maybe write, a pilot, or, work on, that kind of stuff, maybe work on the online digital side of it. But then ultimately, sometimes it's like you have days or a week where you're just like, I don't want to do shit.
Yeah.
And what's the fucking point, really? So I think my goal going forward is to just remain healthy and not get this fucking COVID.
Right.
And so that, by the time that, stuff comes back, it's like, just really stay healthy mentally and as physically as I can for a big fatty.
Yeah, the mental side really creeps up on you. Like I was starting to get this eye twitch, and I couldn't figure. I'm like, what is it? I'm like, oh, it's probably just stress, like from this whole thing. Like we're all.
Yeah.
I find the days okay because I was at home all day anyway, but like the nights really, like at 7 or 8, I just get this anxiety, like I need to leave the house because it's what I was used to, and now you can't, or you just go drive and come back.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of. It is one of those things where sometimes if I think too far ahead of like, what am I going to do every night?
Yeah.
Like it's 5 months in and we're still locked down, and even more so than before, I feel like.
And it's, so, like it's like, if I think about it, it's very concerning that it's August and we're still in the same place. And we're all very humans are so adaptable. It's become the new normal that it would almost feel shocking if tomorrow they're like, sorry, we figured it out. We sprayed this stuff. It's allergic to Windex and it's done. And you're like, oh, okay.
Oh, shit. Trump was right.
Did he say Windex?
I mean, he said some sort of cleaning product.
Yeah, but like you find out it's true and you're like, oh, God, all right. We'd all like crawl out of the bunker slowly. Like, and some of our habits are changed for good. Like I'm never going to a grocery store again. I'm ordering online. What's the point?
Yeah. Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
What do you, are you Instacart?
I'm an Amazon. There's no fee anymore for Amazon delivery. They used to have to pay $15 a month. And look, every once in a while, something is bad. Yeah. And I did get a bag of lettuce with like a cricket in it, which I posted on Instagram, but
but that's cute though.
Yeah, it was cute. And the bag said triple washed, and I was like, and it was just like glaring like cricket inside. So you got to throw out every once in a while. But if you want to go on and say, hey, there was a cricket in my lettuce, they'll give you the $2 back or whatever.
Oh,
so
good.
It's
good.
pretty.
I mean, a cricket in the lettuce, that's worth $2 at least.
Yeah, like if the fruit is slightly not good, I'm not going to go on every time. But if it's just offensively obvious, I'm like, sorry.
Yeah. So, sorry, Bezos.
But I wonder what these food warehouses look like, because they're probably not nicely set up like a grocery store, right? It's probably just like shelves and a guy's running through and throwing it in a bag, and they're timing them with a little stopwatch, and you gotta do it.
I mean, the thing is like, and I've said this before, preferably I support, the mom and pop business. But during all this, what this is kind of like...
After everything Amazon did for you.
Yeah. They did so much. I'm kidding. But I mean, it's, it is kind of this thing where like, small businesses have a lot more to lose. And therefore, because of that, they, might not take the precautions to keep everyone safe. Because like they're not this corporate entity, like I've been to IKEA more times in the last 2 weeks than my whole fucking life.
What for?
I just moved to a new apartment. And so, me and my girlfriend have like kind of combined, forces, but we needed a lot of
combined forces.
Yeah. But we also were
so
like,
romantic.
Like it is very romantic.
Yeah.
But we also like, we needed, we needed new stuff. So, between that, like going there and then it's like, oh, this doesn't work, returning it. But I will say this though, and this is why, like, back to the, the corporate mentality, like they would like yell at people if they pulled their mask downs while waiting in line just to get in. And they're not, it's like they have people watching. So like everyone's masked up.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you go into like, a little deli or something and, somebody pulls their mask down and most of the time they're not going to say anything because they're like, Yeah,
there's a different, the corporate mentality. It's kind of like McDonald's. Like if McDonald's, even before the quarantine, if they sell a bad burger, it's a much different problem than like one chain doing it. One place, like the backlash, everyone knows it. It's like it becomes a news story. It can spiral out of control like really quick. Look at Chipotle. There's the example. Yeah.
And now it's like you go there and it's like, it's going to be great. Chipotle, I love you. You're owned by McDonald's. Good for you.
It was owned. That's they spun off their investment and yeah, it's a crazy time, but I think this is good. I think we are going to do this show. You get a guaranteed spot on it or want to do it with me, let me know.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Just got to figure out if we're, legal. But if we are, I think it's great.
It's great.
Twitch it up.
We get some good laughers,
Some good laughers. That's the part. I feel like I could pull 3 or 4 people that I remember from different shows. I think you laugh a lot and
good comics, amazing laughers. That's like the the selling point,
right? And we'll work in the splashing water park.
That's right.
Too.
That's right.
We'll cover all the bases.
You got to cover all the bases.
Well, dude, this was really fun. I really appreciate talking to you on the pod. Where do people find you and your socials and your life? And
yeah, totally. So on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Simey Gibson, and you can watch Cannonball every Thursday at 7 Central on USA Network.
Love it. What a blessing you got that under wraps before COVID.
Whew, I don't know what would have happened to me. It'd be rough. It'd be rough.
Didn't get the hour down, but you got this. So now you'll come out of it. And...
I'm still waiting on that hour. Bezos, come on.
Yeah, it'll happen. I have full faith in you. So thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.